What's up everyone, this is FP Sticks bringing you some Go Battle League battles here in the Great League, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing a team that I've featured on this channel a couple of different times, but this still to this day is my favorite Great League team that I enjoy running. Whenever I have some negative sets or I've lost a lot of points and I really want to just try to get back to a team that I know is very consistent in performance for me and that I know a lot of the matchups, this is always the team that I go to. And especially when I try to make like a top leaderboard push, this is most likely the team that I am going to be running. So the team is Galarian Stunfisk in the lead, Pelipper on the safe swap, and Venusaur in the back. And you can see the IVs and movesets on the screen there. The reason I love this team so much is that the two things I really do not enjoy playing against in the Great League are Bastiodon and Charmers. Mainly because those Pokemon are very one-dimensional in their role, and it's a lot of like fast move beatdown in the way that they play. Personally, I just don't like to lose to those particular Pokemon. So Galarian Stunfisk and Venusaur both really shut down Charmers, as well as G-Fisk hard counters Bastiodon very well, and Venusaur still has play against Bastiodon. Pelipper is very powerful as a safe swap, and in the 2-shield scenario really has a lot of potential to flip some of those matchups and regain switch advantage or get a shield advantage in that matchup. So I know I featured this team before, but I'm going to be showcasing some more battles running this team and kind of talking about how I played through some of these various matchups. I think it is very beneficial if you are out there looking to try to climb the leaderboard or just increase your rating or make that push to legend. I think it's very beneficial to have one or two teams that you really study and get a lot of practice with and learn a lot of the matchups. This is definitely one of those teams for me. So I lead into a Swampert, very bad for me, but what I've found that people that lead Swampert tend to not have a direct response to a Pelipper safe swap. So I need to be very careful with my energy management here. I need to either get all the shields off of my opponent or potentially flip swap here, because if I can get my Venusaur aligned with the Swampert, that's obviously very favorable for me. I'm essentially just going straight for Weather Balls here. Even though I build up to the Hurricane to bluff that move on the first one, you can essentially just go straight Weather Ball, especially if you correctly shield up a Hurricane like I did there. So I'm able to flip switch advantage. Out comes the Swampert. So again, they don't have a better response to this Pelipper other than the Swampert. So I'm going to continue to get damage off on the Swampert. That's really good for me. My Venusaur is now going to be able to align with the Swampert. And I'm even able to get off another Weather Ball here. It looks like my opponent almost might be lagging because they weren't able to get to a move there. Or they were setting up more farm for their Medicham in the back. So Venusaur does handle Medicham in even shields and even energy, but if the Medicham does have a significant energy advantage or shield advantage, it's no longer that great for Venusaur because the Psychic or the Ice Punch is going to hit for super effective. We've seen this team comp a lot with Tropius in the back instead of Venusaur, and I think there are pros and cons to running Tropius as opposed to Venusaur. I really love Venusaur for very consistent Azumarill matchups as well as the additional charm coverage, but Tropius is definitely a lot more bulky. The G-Fisk mirror match. These are pretty brutal to play out. There's no really truly correct way to play this out because it really all comes down to baiting and who's going to win the CMP tie or sneak in an extra fast move. But my general rule of thumb is I try to bait the first move and also shield the first move. But depending on how I'm feeling at that particular moment in time, I might play it a little bit differently. So typically if your opponent recognizes that they're in not great spot in the lead, they're going to try to make a catch like that, and I knew that they were going to do that, so I stored all the energy. They totally sacrificed their Drifblim, so I'm curious as to what they are running in the back. They bring out their own G-Fisk. Most likely I'm going to get hit by an Earthquake here. Now their G-Fisk is at an awkward health range. It's not in Weather Ball range and it's not in Frenzy Plant range, so I'm going to bring out my Pelipper though and try to farm up as much as possible. I do know that I do survive a Rock Slide, so I'm going to tank that, and I'm anticipating that they potentially have their own Venusaur in the back. So I rip off that Weather Ball, and they catch on their Venusaur. Really nice catch by my opponent. I know they most likely have a Rock Slide stored. I'm just staying in here doing as much chip damage as possible, and I'm just going to get to this Weather Ball. These wing attacks are really adding up. They're trying to farm down my Pelipper, but I've done so much wing attack damage to this Venusaur that's really putting in work. And I'm at another Weather Ball, so I just shield, comfortably get this Weather Ball off. Down goes the Venusaur, and out comes the G-Fisk, and even if this is an Earthquake, which it most likely is, I will survive it. And able to Vine Whip down the G-Fisk. Very good game there. These battles are done in like the 3100 rating range. Shadow Abomasnow is very scary because if they want to win this lead, they can. But more so, I'm just concerned about getting rid of this thing and making sure that my Venusaur doesn't have to see it. The fact that they let a Rock Slide through is very favorable for me because now it's in wing attack range. I let this first move go through and they actually went straight for the Energy Ball. Oh my gosh, really nice play. But I got the shield there. And I'm just going to let this go. Set this up for a farm with my Pelipper. People that lead Abomasnow are weak to fire in the lead, so I'm anticipating there's at least one water type in the back, which means my Venusaur should see a decent matchup in the back. Able to farm this down. I still have 2 shields, and they bring out their Azumarill. Worst case scenario, they have an Alolan Marowak in the back. So I land the Hurricane on the Azu. So it's a tough call here, but I'm actually going to save my shields for the Venusaur and see what they have. It's actually a Deoxys in the back, so because I am up in shields, this is very favorable for me. My opponent is playing this very well, not allowing me to get in any extra Vine Whips, and they throw Thunderbolt, so I immediately know that they are in fact running Psycho Boost Thunderbolt. I'm able to get to another Frenzy Plant here. They do sneak in an extra counter, which is not ideal. Not enough to take it out. I will commit my shield here, and I'm able to farm them down, and then I have a move stored for the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that match. So the Azumarill was the water type that they had in the back, makes sense, and Defense Deoxys also handles opposing counter users, so very strong team from my opponent. Deoxys in the lead. This is always an awkward lead to play out because the charge moves from Deoxys don't do anything, but the fast moves really add up, and in the 2 shield, if they want to win this matchup, they can. And every opponent plays this a little bit differently. Sometimes they end up shielding my Rock Slide bait, sometimes they don't. If they don't shield that first Rock Slide, you can essentially just go straight Rock Slide spam and put on a lot of shield pressure. There's the first Psycho Boost. They're going to rip off another Psycho Boost. I might even make a swap here to get ahead on energy. No, I'm just going to go for this Rock Slide and see if they want to give me the lead. They do let me have it. That's fine. I get farmed by the Azumarill. That's totally fine because Venusaur really shuts down an Azumarill. This is a very powerful matchup for Venusaur. And you're able to leave this with a good amount of stored energy. So out comes a Stunfisk. I'm down in shields. I just need to rip off as much Frenzy Plant damage as I can get there. And that one Frenzy Plant actually puts them in Weather Ball range, so I do make the swap into my Pelipper. I know that I win CMP, so I'm able to put on a lot of shield pressure there. I do live this one Rock Slide. But I know that my Venusaur has a lot of work cut out for it. Still has to take out that Azumarill. I will shield this Rock Slide. I really want to get shields down. But if they save their shield for their Azumarill, it was going to be a little bit tricky. Luckily, they do shield their G-Fisk. This Rock Slide is going to take me out, but they overfarmed. They do have some residual energy. I'm just going to go straight for the Frenzy Plant, deny this energy that they stored. And I know that my Venusaur can tank an Ice Beam from that range, and I don't even know if my opponent had Ice Beam, but able to take that victory there. Good game. Alright, Azumarill leads. Typically, what you should do is just go straight into Pelipper because you have 2 better responses to an Azu in the lead. I've tried this so many times before where you like stay in with the G-Fisk a little bit, chip it with an Earthquake, try to catch on Pelipper. I don't think it's worth it to be that fancy. I think it's safer to just go straight into Pelipper because you have 2 better responses to this in the back. Now, we saw an Azu in the lead, we saw a Sableye in the secondary matchup. There's a good chance that this is Azu double Ghost, so it could be an Alolan Marowak in the back. If that is the case, it's pretty important that I try to win switch here so I can get my G-Fisk on the AWAC. And I was worried that the Sableye was going to get to a move there, so unfortunately I switched back into my G-Fisk here, but I am anticipating that it is an Alolan Marowak in the back, so I need to save my Pelipper in hopes of ripping off a Weather Ball onto that Alolan Marowak. It won't one-shot it, but potentially if I can land a Frenzy Plant on it and then land a Weather Ball, I'll be in a decent spot here. My opponent's Azumarill seems to be pretty XL because it is tanking these Earthquakes no problem. This is most likely going to take me out. I need to set myself up for a farm down here. I'm actually going to get some energy on my Pelipper, but luckily for me, they just swap right into their Alolan Marowak. They probably anticipated me bringing out the Venusaur, but now I can just stay in here with the AWAC. And I tried to catch a move on my Venusaur, but it failed. But at this point, I'm assuming my opponent knows the game is over because they just let that go through, and then I'm able to farm down the Azumarill. Good game. Azu Double Ghost is a little bit tricky for this team if you don't get alignment in your favor, but Deoxys lead once again. Gonna stay in here and go for the Rock Slide bait. Let's see if I get a shield this time. No shield, and they actually give up swap straight into their Mandibuzz, but I do need to be aware that their Deoxys has a lot of stored energy, which is going to be threatening for my Pelipper and my Venusaur. So it really threatens both of those Pokemon there, whereas the fast moves are not as threatening on those back 2 Pokemon, but the charge moves definitely are. So, very interesting that they bring out the Mandibuzz onto the G-Fisk. I'm just staying in here because I technically don't have a better response to the Mandibuzz. They're able to get to this last second charge move, which is really unfortunate, and then they snipe me with the Deoxys. Okay, I'm going to bring out Venusaur here. If I can correctly shield up the first Psycho Boost, I'm in a good spot, because now I know that all these subsequent Psycho Boosts will not do enough damage. I'm wondering if this is Deoxys Double Dark, so potentially an Umbreon in the back. They're getting to so many moves here. They had so much energy. But I'm continuing to farm. I'm going to throw a Frenzy Plant. I doubt that they shield this. Probably saving 2 shields for whatever they have in the back. We'll see what it is. It is a Galvantula. Very unfortunate for me. And they even catch on their Mandibuzz. So I got ridiculously outplayed by this opponent. Very good game to them. I cannot handle a Galvantula in the back, that is for sure. Diggersby, bad lead for me. So I'm going to go straight into the Pelipper, and they meet it with a Hypno. This is a normal Hypno. The Thunder Punches are still going to be hitting for super effective, but luckily the confusion damage is not adding up enough. And so timing of these charge moves is very important. You can see I'm throwing my charge moves in the middle of the confusion animation to make sure that they don't sneak in an entire free confusion. Or I'm trying to force the CMP right there to guarantee that they don't sneak in an extra one there. A little bit of lag, but I'm able to regain swap even though I'm down 2 shields, which is not super ideal. But at least my Venusaur will be able to get onto the Diggersby. They bring out their own Pelipper. So this is really not a good team comp for me. I'm actually just going to immediately swap into my G-Fisk here, store a Weather Ball on my Pelipper. I did not want to get farmed all the way down, and at least these Earthquakes will do about half damage to this Diggersby. I somehow need to set myself up in a farm scenario where I can Vine Whip this down with Venusaur, and then have energy to threaten that Pelipper. They still have a shield, which is going to be really tough to deal with here. Earthquake does not take it out, and they're farming me down successfully. Really not good for me. So I'm going to catch this energy on Venusaur. I need a little bit of a running start. Out comes Pelipper. I'm going to try to catch a Hurricane, but I actually just go straight for this Weather Ball here, and most likely now they're going to just be able to farm me down, which they're able to do, and then they still have the shield. Very well played by my opponent. Tough lead for me. Talonflame in the lead, and then they immediately switch to Serperior. Check this out. I really should try running some Serperior in the Great League, because as a safe swap, this is pretty impressive what it's able to do against the Venusaur. It's actually able to tank a Sludge Bomb and threaten shields from my Venusaur. Now this is a big problem for me because I have to shield this, and luckily I will be able to farm this down, but the Talonflame is going to get a lot of farm. So again, timing of the charge moves is important. I threw 2 Vine Whips there to fit it in the Incinerate animation, and then I immediately just swapped to Pelipper here, and I want to put on some pressure onto this Talonflame. This is most likely a Brave Bird, and then they're going to switch out. They do, and it's actually a Shadow Machamp in the back. So Pelipper has a lot of work to do here. Gonna burn the first shield, gonna burn the second shield here. No extra counters have gone through. That's very favorable for me. I get both shields. They are really loading up on energy. I still have a full health G-Fisk, which can easily tank the damage there. So I bring out Venusaur to absorb this damage from the Machamp, and luckily I'm able to get to this Frenzy Plant before they're able to farm me down. I insta-swap into my G-Fisk, and 1 Rock Slide is going to be able to take out this Talonflame there. Good game. The Serperior safe swap definitely caught me off guard. It's a very, very powerful Pokemon on the safe swap there. Jirachi in the lead is favorable for me. I don't have a direct response to an Umbreon, because technically in the 2 shield, this Umbreon could beat all 3 of my Pokemon, depending on how they play. So I really want this Umbreon to throw some energy, and then I'm most likely going to bring out my Venusaur onto it. So there it is. They are now essentially in Frenzy Plant plus a lot of Vine Whip farm down range. Now Jirachi does resist all of the energy that I will farm with Venusaur, but you will be surprised at how much damage Frenzy Plant still does to it. I know I survived this move, and I should be able to farm this down, and minimal farm for the Jirachi is ideal. Gonna throw this Frenzy Plant. It's gonna do like 40% damage. Does a decent chunk there. Out comes Scrafty. This was very favorable alignment for me, but it was very crucial that I chipped that Umbreon with my G-Fisk. This team does not have a hard counter to an Umbreon safe swap, so you have to get creative with your energy management. At this point, the game is pretty much over. I'm just trying to make sure that my opponent does not get in any free counters, but I'm trying to put on a lot of shield pressure to make sure that they can't switch out of this matchup quite yet. Get baited with Power Up Punch, unfortunate, but I'm able to get to this Weather Ball. And my switch clock is up, so I immediately swapped to not get farmed, and I was able to maintain positive alignment through that entire matchup there. Good game. Alright, very favorable lead for G-Fisk. Oh man, so I have not quite decided on the best strategy of how to handle the opponent safe swapping a G-Fisk. Because this matchup, especially if they instant swap like this, you're going to be on even energy. As we know, it is bait dependent. I need to preserve my G-Fisk for the Altaria, but they're still at an awkward health range. And I get baited with a Rock Slide there, and our switch clocks are wildly out of sync. So most likely they could make a swap back into their Altaria at some point, which is really not good for me. I could immediately go into the Venusaur against a G-Fisk that switches in on me like that, but they will have an energy advantage, and they can win that in the 2 shield. They're able to take me out here, and I've just lost switch advantage, which is very unfortunate. Very nicely played by my opponent. I'm going to farm them down, but this is just not good. It's an Azu in the back. I'm hoping to get to a Hurricane against this Altaria. I will barely survive this, but then unfortunately there's no way that my G-Fisk can hang with that Azu, and most likely they are running Hydro Pump. Altaria, Azu, G-Fisk. Very strong, very meta team. I can't farm this down. I'm farming as much as I can, but I know that the Azu is easily going to be able to take out my G-Fisk here. But just for fun, we will see what charge moves it had. If it only has Ice Beam Play Rough, there's still a little bit of play there. But charge move is going to be coming through here. And it is an Ice Beam, but I'm not going to have quite enough energy to get off 2 Earthquakes and a Rock Slide. But made it very close. Really nice plays from my opponent. Yeah, the G-Fisk, when the opponent swaps in a G-Fisk onto your own G-Fisk, it is a little bit tricky to handle there. Sableye in the lead is always kind of interesting. We're used to seeing Sableye on the safe swap. So the goal here is to successfully land a Rock Slide, and then eventually we'll see what I want to do. When my opponent switches in Sableyes on me, I typically want to land a Rock Slide, and then I eventually can make a move into Pelipper. But I'm going to go for the double bait here and see what they want to do. They double shield, so I know that I should comfortably be able to get to this Earthquake. They're able to get to another foul play. They might try to catch a move here, but I'm going to shield. And they are staying in, so I'm just going to go for this Earthquake. And I'm able to win that lead there. Really good for me. Out comes Medicham. My Pelipper will survive a Psychic, so that's why I bring Pelipper onto this. Their team is crazy weak to a Charmer, so I would imagine that it could be a G-Fisk in the back. It's a Bastiodon in the back. That also makes sense. I throw a Weather Ball to chip this a little bit. I'm actually going to throw 2 Weather Balls here because then it will be in Frenzy Plant range, and I know I can barely get there in time before the Bastiodon gets there. Able to get there. This should do just enough damage to take out the Bastiodon. And I'm going to barely be able to get to this Frenzy Plant. They did get an extra counter through. And they barely survive. They definitely had a pretty XL team there for sure, but able to take it out. Good game. Azu lead. This might be the game that I misplay. Okay, no. I immediately go into Pelipper. And they bring out Umbreon. So, not the best matchup for Pelipper. I do have a slight energy advantage here. So once again, timing of these charge moves is going to be everything. You can see I'm just going straight for Weather Ball here because it is more energy efficient. I get a shield there, really good for me. Wing Attack is a 2-turn move, Snarl is a 3-turn move, so you essentially, if you're counting in groups of 3, you want to throw on the 1 count like I'm doing here. If you have not watched my video on charge move timing and fast move alignment, make sure to check that out because little things like this really do make a big difference in the course of a matchup. Able to get a Weather Ball off once again, and we'll see if they'll let me have switch here. Unfortunately, as you can see, Umbreon does win this in the 2 shield, but this is very nice farm for my Venusaur. I'm just going to hope that my Venusaur with loaded energy when my opponent has shields down can just sweep their back line. So we'll see what they have. If they have a Skarmy or an Altaria or an AWAC, there's nothing I can do, but that's great farm for me. What do they have? They bring out their own Venusaur, so I do need to land 2 Sludge Bombs on this, and I don't want to get hit by a move from this, but I am over farming a little bit. Gonna land the Sludge Bomb. They don't make a catch, and so my Venusaur just completely sweeps their back line with that energy advantage. Out comes their Azu, but once again, this game is pretty much over. I think I even attempt to catch on my G-Fisk there to get fancy, but this game's over. And we're able to come back from that Azumarill lead there. Very good game. I think we have one more battle in this video. Alright, so if it's Powder Snow, this is actually a fairly neutral matchup, but they insta-swapped out, so I wasn't able to see what move they have. Defense Deoxys switch-ins. Tough to deal with, because they're just going to continuously fast move you down, and then they have a bunch of energy stored. If it is Charm, my Venusaur still has play against it. Unfortunately, we see MP tie here. They do go for Rock Slide, But this is setting me up for really nice farm with my Venusaur. They might have an Umbreon in the back. This is a very common team. A pairing of DD, Umbreon, and Alola Ninetales, very popular. They don't even have Psycho Boost. They actually went straight for Rock Slide that entire time. It is an Umbreon, and so I am assuming that that is a Charm Ninetales. Otherwise, if it was Powder Snow, they would have brought it out onto my Venusaur most likely. Granted, I did have energy, so maybe they were threatened by that, but I switch into my Pelipper, and it is in fact a Charm Ninetales. I want to preserve that Venusaur so it has play against their Ninetales. I get one Weather Ball off, go for another Weather Ball. Once again, Weather Ball is more energy efficient here. It's not worth it to go for the big nuke of Hurricane, especially when shields are up. And they farm me down, not ideal. My Venusaur is still very healthy. But I think I'm going to tank a Weather Ball onto my G-Fisk, which I will barely survive. And not able to get to that Rock Slide. Very unfortunate for me. Gonna have to tank this Weather Ball. And unfortunately not able to get off enough energy to take the end of that game there. But thank you everyone so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you appreciate the content. And I'll see you all in the next video.